section 6, we're going to be revisiting the word problems like we did back in chapter 2, but we're going to have a little twist on the word problems. Here's the same 4 steps that we learned back in chapter 2. We want to make sure to make a connection between our variables and the question. We need to come up with the equation, or in this case, the equations. You'll see in just a moment. Same 4 steps that we did back in chapter 2. Only this time, some of them are going to look a little bit different. Here's a problem that we did back in chapter 2. So we want to begin by identifying the variables. That's step 1. Well, it says find the 2 numbers. So here's our 2 numbers. And we need to call these 2 things something. Now, the thing that we're learning about in chapter 7 is the fact that we can now use 2 different variables. So one of these we'll call x and the other one we'll call y. Step 1 should be quite easy in this chapter. And then step 2 is to come up with the equation, or again, in this case, the equations. Because if we have 2 variables, we need 2 equations. Now look, one equation simply says that one number, x, is equals 3 times another plus 2. 2 more than 3 times another. And then it says their sum is 26. So there's our 2 equations. Now I'll solve this one by hand using the substitution method. If we take the first equation, which is already solved for x, and substitute that into the second equation, and then finish solving, we get one of the 2 answers. Now again, we need to find the other one, so we want to take that number and plug it back into some equation. And so our 2 answers are x equals 20 and y equals 6. One number is 20, the other number is 6. Now here's the same problem, same equations, only this time we're going to solve those using our calculator. Now, to solve this on our calculator, that top equation has to be changed to standard form. So, subtracting 3y from both sides, we would have this. Then we want to write the augmented matrix. The top equation would be 1, negative 3, 2. The bottom one, 1, 1, 26. We will take out our calculator. We will go to the matrix editor, choose matrix A, make sure it's 2 by 3, and type our numbers, 1, negative 3, 2, 1, 1, 26. Exit, second quit, and go to the matrix math menu and choose the RREF. Tell it which matrix. Second, matrix number 1. Enter. When we get the pattern of 1s and 0s on the left hand side, then those 2 numbers are our answers. The top number would be x, the bottom number would be y. X equals 20, y equals 6 are our answers. Here's another word problem, similar to some we did back in chapter 2. And so let's see. The variables are the rooms with kitchens and the rooms without kitchens. We'll call one of them x and one of them y. Now, since there are 200 rooms total, we know one equation is x plus y equals 200. Now, we know that those with kitchen facilities rented for $100 a night, and those without rented for $80 a night, and that the total sum of money was $17,000. And so we have these two equations. Now we can solve those either by substitution or addition. If we use the addition method, we'd make the y's match, add them together, and divide by 20. Once we get one of the numbers, we substitute back in to find the other one. And so once we know x equals 50 and y equals 150, we look back at what we did in step 1 and write our answer. Here's the same problem, but on our calculator. We go to the matrix, editor, make sure it's a 2 by 3, and the augmented matrix, 1, 1, 200, 100, 80, and 17,000. Second, quit. Now, since the RREF on matrix A is the last thing I typed, all I need to do is just press enter and it'll do that again, only this time with the new matrix. And so x equals 50 and y equals 150. Here's another problem, again like some that we did back in chapter 2. So how much does she invest at each rate? Our two variables needs to be the amount at one rate and the amount at the other. One of them's x, the other one's y. Here's the total interest. How do we get the interest? We multiply the amount invested times the interest rate. We had x amount at 7.5%. We had y at 6%, and together they're $840. And then it goes on to say she invests twice as much money at 7.5 as she does at 6. So the amount invested at 7.5 is twice the amount at 6. Once we get the two equations, we need to decide how we're going to go about solving those. We can use substitution, we can use addition, we can use our RREF. If we put this in standard form, the second one I'm talking about, then we can enter it into our calculator and do the RREF. The matrix editor, two by 3, 0.075, 0.06, 840, 1, -2, and 0. Get all of those typed properly. Second, quit, and RREF. Because of the pattern of ones and zeros, top number is x, bottom number is y. So x is 8,000 and y is 4,000. Here's a very similar problem to the last one, but notice we now have what? 3 different investments. No big deal. We call one of them x, one of them y, one of them z. Now, however, step 2, we've got to come up with 3 different equations. Starting with the very first part, if they have $6,500 to invest, that means the 3 together have to be $6,500. And if the income was $689, just like in the last problem, we multiply the rate times the amount and add them all together, and it has to be $689. And very similar to the last problem, if the amount invested at 12%, that's Z, is 300 more than the amount at 7 and 11 together, then we have our other equation. Now if we want to do this on our calculator, which I think you'll want to do, that bottom equation has to be put in standard form. Subtracting the x and the y from both sides, and writing the augmented matrix. So let's solve that on our calculator. We go to the matrix editor, choose matrix A, and this time it has to be a 3 by 4, and then type in the numbers. Exit to matrix editor and do the RREF. Again, because of the pattern of ones and zeros, these three numbers at the end are the answers in order for X, Y, and Z.